around the world you are tuned in from. Welcome to Fly Nubian Money, where we help Black women master their mindset and maximize their money. I'm Lindsay Vertner, and today I'm wondering, does age really matter in relationships? But before we get started into these discussions, let me introduce to you my dynamic co-queens joining me today. First, we have Lala Key, aka Laura. We have Erica Lewis, Marlo Layson, and Athena Gardner. So, ladies, are y'all ready for this discussion on age gap relationships? Now, I'm going to kick it straight to Athena because I heard through the grapevine that you have some history in some age gap relationships.
Listen, you heard right.
Spill the beans.
Listen, I have dated men who are older than me considerably before, and there are pros and cons to that. There are pros and cons to that, and we can discuss that further if you guys would like. But age gap relationships are nothing new to me. So.
Mm-hmm. How much older? Are we talking like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
Put it like this. I was probably like the same age as like this person's kids. So considerably older before. And then in general, I have most of the men that I meet are at least like 5 years up older than me. But yes, I've dated someone or people who are old enough to be like my parent.
Well, hashtag no judgment zone, okay? Now, have any of you other ladies had any experience?
I haven't, but that brings us to what the producers have popped up, right? Drea Michelle dating a guy, being pregnant for a guy that is the same age or age range as her oldest child, who is a college student. So I think it's to each his own, but I couldn't imagine dating someone. I have a son who's in his upper 20s. I could not imagine dating someone my son's age or my daughter's age that's under him. But, you know, do what you got to do.
Yes.
You know, I was on the opposite end of that. A friend of mine a few years back, like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, introduced me to a gentleman who was 64 and I had yet turned 50. I was like 48, 49. And I remember I was open to the conversation and we chit-chatted. And then as I started to do the math, I'm like, wait, this man is 15, 16 years older than me. And then as I continued to do the math, I'm thinking he's been an adult a long time. So when I was born, he was 15, 16. And by the time I entered high school, he was 30 and he had a 401k plan. So when I did all that math, I bowed out gracefully because when I mathed in, when I'm 64, he's going to be 80. And this is starting to turn into me being a hospice wife. So yeah, I backed out.
I've actually seen it both ways. Now, me personally, to each their own, I'm going to say that whatever love is, it is. However, my husband and I always tease each other about we're the same age. Okay. I'm only like 23 days older than he is. All right. But we laugh at the fact that there would be no way I would be able to communicate and laugh about the things that we laugh about, the things that we share, the 80s that we grew up in, the high school that we grew up in together. I can't imagine trying to connect with someone who is 20, 30 years younger than I am and not have that connection of growing up together and laughing at the same things. So for me, I can't ever see myself being with someone that much younger. However, my son dates only older men. So he calls them their silver foxes. And I'm totally fine with that. He has actually dated people who are older than I am. It didn't bother me because the guys that he brought to the relationship, we got to meet and I saw that they had good intentions and they were good for him. But for me, not so much. I can't do it.
You know, you bring up a good point, Lala, talking about being able to connect with your partner and have those same references. And I feel the same way. Like, whenever I talk to people that are just years and years younger than me, not that we can't hold a conversation, but it's like to talk to you all day, every day. we don't have the same references, the same, social media, pop culture, things like that, the music, so many things. And so it makes me wonder, what are some of the reasons that these celebrities or even non-celebrities are in relationships with that significant age gap? Is it the money that could potentially?
Well, I can tell you, my son actually said, Mom, I like it when they're financially stable. I don't want their money, but I don't want two of us struggling if we wanted to go see the Mariah Carey concert. So in his mind, he wants that stability, even though he has his own business and things of that nature. He feels that people his age, most of the people that he's dated his age, and let me say a side note, guys, I was a teenage mother, so my son is only 16 younger than me. So I think we're in a kind of a unique situation when it comes to those ages. But he doesn't want to date the people who are his age because he feels like they are still kind of trying to find out who they are, when he wants to be with someone who does know who they are, who's stable, and they can still grow together. Me, I still need to laugh at cartoons with my husband, that we grew up with. That's just me.
I also think about the other financial flip side to that, which is when when you have an older partner, the expenses that come with it. And yeah, people think, oh, that's my spouse, I'll inherit these things. But what about their children, right? What about the tensions that we see when somebody marries an older person and then the estate becomes in question because of having children that are essentially the same age as your spouse, and those trust issues that come from those sorts of things. I find that part interesting as well.
I think the difference in dating in our reality is being like, regular folk and versus dating in, let's say, the Shaquille O'Neal and the Drea situation is that they're in a completely different social status. And for them dating older or younger, older guys dating a younger woman dating an older guy, vice versa, I think it's more of the social economic piece to it because they're in the same social circles. So with Adrea, and God bless her, she's not more, it's not about him being 22, being younger. It's that he is in that social economic status that she's in. He could be 10, he could be 110, but he's in that social economic status. And I think it's more of that social piece that they're all in the same circle. And it's amazing that in these circles, you could be with your ex-husband one week and then your ex-boyfriend the following week, and this woman has 3 or 4 kids with 3 or 4 different men in the room, and it's okay. If we did that, child, the drama would be off the rocker. But when you're looking at the economic piece because of the social status, then that's what balances all of it out, and everyone is on the same playing field because they're on the same social and economic playing field.
Yeah, I agree with you to an extent, Erica, about being in the same socioeconomic groups. However, in my opinion, I feel like, yeah, but there's still people in that age range, maybe like give or take 10 years up or down, but to be the same age as your son, your adult son.
You also have to take into consideration there's a lot of NDAs that started that start floating around. And then, when you're a woman that's a certain age and you've already dated or were married to your equal who was the same age as you, and then you went through all of those dynamics and you want to step out and have some fun, you're going to date younger, you're going to date different because you're looking for a different experience within the realms of that social economic status. So you get married at 18, 19 years old and you have 5 or 6 kids together, you've been married 25, 30 years, and now you're divorced. Do you really want to repeat and go back and marry what you just divorced? No, they're looking to be in that same social economic status, but date younger. And that's on both the male and female side. And it may not be, and we have to also keep into consideration, a lot of them are not looking for a long time, they're looking for a good time. They're looking for a good time, not a long time.
I think that's the key point right there.
Well, you brought up something good to talk about as well, because there is a line that you need to cut it off at. And no matter what economic status you're in, you don't need to be a 35-year-old man or woman dating a 16, 17, 18-year-old partner.
Agreed.
That becomes pretty creepy and gross. And we are seeing a lot of that now. And a lot of people, when we grew up, okay, here's an example. My grandmother, her story was that when they got married, she packed her dolls. I packed my dolls and we went. My grandfather wasn't that much older, but in those days, when she was, dolls were played with longer. She was 13 years old. He was like 21. And in those days, early 1900s, that was acceptable. And they had a loving and long relationship and they loved each other dearly. So, but this is different in this day and age when you're looking at men who are grooming women who are teenagers. I know people, my clients, I've had some clients who come where I've had a 65-year-old man dating an 18-year-old girl. And I had a very hard time closing that deal. I'm not allowed to discriminate in my job. But there were so many warning signs that I wanted to say, girl, run, because it just wasn't that way. So you do have to take that into consideration too. Now, she also was looking at the financial aspect of this. Okay, she's 18. She wanted certain things. This gentleman was stable, and this is what she wanted to do. And this is how her mother was pushing her. So my question is, and in that age gap, what in the world do you have in common other than that money? Nothing. Because honestly, their conversations in front of me were like Venus and Pluto. They did not get it.
Yeah. When I worked on cruise ships, I remember seeing the first time ever in my life, because I didn't think it was real, I saw a child bride. She was listed as a guest for youth services, and she never showed up for the youth program. And I ran into her at the pool, and her husband, who was clearly old enough to be my grandfather, walked up and he's like, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Obviously not." And and she said, "No, that's my husband." And she was about 15 or 16. But then we also have to look at some of the cultural ramifications. This is a cultural thing. I've seen women that were from various different countries that were child brides, and they'd been married 25, 30 years, and they had grown to love their husbands, and their husbands had paid a fee to the family to marry said woman. So we start looking at the cultural aspects in some situations, but I think there is something a little bit lopsided when we start looking at, like you said, Lala, 16, 17, 18, and he's 45 and 50. It's just like, okay, like where's the cutoff?
Well, recently we saw that with Kimora and Russell's daughter, guys. Remember?
Girl.
Okay, and Kimora came out. Now, mind you, Kimora was young when Russell grabbed her. Okay,
Young.
So for her to turn around and say that about her daughter, she came on TMZ talking about this ain't, no, I'm not acceptable with this, and I don't like it, and no, she was just experimenting. She shut that down really.
Listen, I'm glad y'all brought that up. I'm going to have a point on that. But first, if you are just tuning in, welcome to Fly Nubian Queen TV. And if you are like, wait a minute, I am in the area of looking for my mate, then we have a free gift for you. Text the word Queens to 87948, where you can actually get a free copy of the book Financial Lovemaking by Dr. Boyce Watkins. And this book is all about choosing someone and that's financially responsible. Because here's the thing, guys, the third leading cause of divorce is the money. So make sure you text the word Queens to 87948. Also, make sure you share, like, follow, do all the things on this episode. We truly appreciate your engagement. And now, listen, since you brought it up, this Aoki Lee Simmons, honey, when I first saw it pop up on my news feed, I was like, what in the world? And then I instantly did think about, okay, well, she kind of grew up in that with her mom and her dad. But again, what do you have in common with a 65-year-old? Like, y'all both like to golf. Okay, great. But what y'all gonna talk about?
I think it's interesting because Aoki went to Harvard, right? There was one daughter who was clearly on the track to modeling and maybe party girl status, if you would call it that, early. But then I think it threw everyone for a loop because here she is, Harvard educated. She seemed very grounded. And I don't even know what that video was of her and the gentleman and the traveling. And she looked like she was kind of out of sorts. Um, but how do you get from being Russell Simmons' daughter to essentially what looks like you try to, or you've gotten yourself into a sugar baby relationship, or what appears to be like a little sugar baby summer fun, right, or a spring break fun, whatever time of year it was? How do you get to that, right? Because we could understand a young girl that comes from less, but this is Russell Simmons. He's the first billionaire of the hip hop like kind of money elite class, right? So how does that happen is the question that I was left when I saw it all.
Well, what I would say, because I'm speaking from experience now, I'm not speculating. Most of those relationships happen because there is a exchange happening. So with age gap relationships, usually an older man will date a younger woman because he's looking for someone who is youthful and fun and can live out certain fantasies per se, that especially when they're older, and this is not discussed a lot of men go through, especially if they're single, so they're not married, they don't have a wife, something like that. A lot of men go through facing mortality, facing death, facing aging. We don't really talk about the things that men go through when they get older. A lot of that conversation is safe for women, but when men get older, they worry about there's more years behind them than ahead of them, and to make the best of those years. So they're trying to feel young, they're trying to feel youthful, they're trying to maximize what's left of their years. So they'll be attracted or solicit a younger woman so that they can still feel youthful and forget that they're aging and dying. When it comes to, and this happens regardless of class. Now, what's unique about rich older men, though, is when a man is wealthy or has money, he will often seek, if he definitely has those desires, seek a younger woman. He is in addition, he's trying to feel younger and have that youthful side. But I will definitely not recommend for most younger women to date older men. Usually you're attracted or you like the idea of doing that because you want someone more stable, someone more mature. A lot of men in your age group, especially if you're unmarried, are not financially stable enough, not mature enough. You don't really have like certain level of intellectual aptitude. So that is what will attract a younger woman to an older man, and the idea of him taking care of you, and he will actually kind of like the idea of taking care of you as well, because he'll still feel useful, he'll still feel vital, he'll still feel vibrant. However, it's a trade-off, because the trade-off happens is, even though you are getting those things, hopefully, because there's, in my opinion, there's no point in dating anyone older if they are not at least financially stable. If you ain't financially stable, girl, you might as well just date in your own age range. But you're attracted to, the trade-off is you're also going to deal with their health issues, whether it's physical or sexual in nature. That tends to happen a lot. You're also going to deal with, you don't want to be a nurse with a purse. You also are going to deal with, they tend to be very stubborn and set in their ways and not changing. So whatever it is you're signing up for, and with a wealthy older man too, more chances than not, he is looking at you as a status symbol or something to flash, or a piece of property. Just to like sum that up. So if you're looking for love, chances are he doesn't love you like that. Chances are you are in the rotation. He may have, if he's wealthy, more than one girlfriend. Chances are you are just, for now. He might, especially if he's been married before and he don't want to
No,
do it again.
If I can interject, I think Athena, I appreciate it, girl. I appreciate you, but no, he's looking for a hospice wife, honey. These men are. He's looking for a hospice wife because he know he got one foot in the grave and he is on the wrong side of the cross. Amen. And he done messed up somewhere. He got a bunch of kids he didn't take care of. He did nothing for. Okay, let's just talk about it. I worked in healthcare before. Let's look at the men that are in the nursing homes. They got 3, 4, 5, 6 kids that they never took care of because they were out there finger popping and booty rocking. They had a good time. And now look, you're old and no one wants to be bothered with you because you didn't want to be bothered with anyone when you were on your good leg and you had your good wallet. Now you're broke. Or now you got a whole lot of money, you got dividends, and nobody still wants to be bothered with you. So that's when they realize I have to pay for company, and I am sorry. Youthful women should not have to bow down and become a nurse for the purse. Just no. I'm sorry. No, let him take care of himself. Let him go register in a nursing home, cash in that money and go to an assisted living and go get health care. No. Absolutely not. It's called the healthcare system for a reason. No, but being a hospice wife, I don't advise that for any woman because when he drops dead or something happens to him, guess what? Those very children he did nothing for, those women, those boys and girls come a running to cash out life insurance policies and to take what belonged to him, you, and whoever else is in the way when it's time to cash out. Sorry, that was my rant for the morning.
You came through on fire, Erica.
I'm sorry. I'll have some water.
The Anna Nicole Smith situation when she was dating the older man and how whenever it was time for him to pass and pass on his wealth, the whole family was like, we don't care who you are. That is owed to us.
Exactly. The children come to get what's theirs because you have to keep into consideration and remember these men don't tell you who they were and what they did 25, 30, 40 years ago. All you're seeing is who they are now and where they are now. And it's, oh my God, look, he's so old and nobody comes to check on him. Yeah, but why? Why?
I would say that most of those relationships, and I agree with you, Erica, and I can say this from experience and then from the outside looking in, most of those relationships are predatory in nature. The men try to take advantage of the naivety of the women who are younger. And I would most of the time not recommend dating someone that much significantly older than you because of the trade-offs I mentioned before, but also most of the time there is an element of grooming like Lala mentioned earlier, and there is a element of wanting to control. They have high levels of, I think a lot of them have control issues, if I'm going to be honest. And I think my stint, which was very brief stint in doing that, that was part of the reasons why I did not continue with those relationships, because I definitely felt like, well, any man trying to control me is going to have a problem. But I think I'm very smart and intelligent, and I know, and I'm not doing anything I don't want to do. And I'm not going to sign myself up for slaughter, no matter how much older, richer, whatever it is. So I definitely ended those relationships because I felt like the men were not great in character, especially when he's older and has a lot of wealth. I definitely, even observing other people who live that dynamic, I definitely found the men to be lacking in character and more deviant.
Here's where, and see, this is what happens when when older men or someone older goes after someone not younger or less mature. What tends to happen is you don't understand that who he is as an older person at 65, 70, or 80, that's who he was at 25 or 30. It's just more pronounced now because he's older. Just because this is how, if he's ornery and scroungy and he just came into some money, he's always been that way. He was that way when he was broke. He's that way with money. He's that way when he's old. He was that way when he was young. These are personality traits and these are characteristics. And what happens is when they get younger women, you are starting to diminish who you are to fit into into the mold of this for whatever you think you're going to get out of it. But technically what you're doing is you're leaving a part of your soul on the table. You're ripping a piece of yourself that you are leaving on the table that you're not going to walk because you're going to remember that. He's going to die. He's going to move on. You're going to get tired of it. And then what happens is now you can't relate to your own age group of people. You can't relate to your own circle of friends because now you have sat around somebody that is 35, 40 years older than you, and you're having senior conversations when you really should be living your life and going to learn something.
Listen,
well, we can't just put it all on men, though, ladies. We can't.
No, definitely can't put it on men because, honey, it's some vicious
there
women
are a
out here.
lot of women that also do this too. Remember, they call us cougars. All right.
Yes.
So I can't imagine dating a younger man myself, but I actually have seen that a lot in my business. Women who get these young men, and these young men cater to exactly what they want, the older women want. We all know that we mature differently. Women mature a little bit faster than women. It's scientifically known. That's not a put down. So I don't want to hear none of that, y'all, in the comments. Don't come at me. That's just the truth. But when you get to a certain age, a woman wants to be frisky and kind of relive her youth as well. So a young man serves that purpose for her, as long as they're fine and she's not grooming and blah, blah, blah. Same thing I'm going to say, because you're talking to someone who is dealing with that in my life, is sexual trauma. So I'm always going to put it on fleek when we're talking about that. Okay. But if it's something that you both agree to and you're fine with it, fine. But you better make sure your financial house is in order. I don't care if you're the woman or the man. Don't you just go into this relationship expecting that that's what you're going to get from that partner because they're older and they're more financially stable. Because like you said, those children are coming out of the woodwork. They're like, oh, no. He had me first. I don't care what kid it is. Right? You got to get it in order. And it's fun to play games when you're older and you're fine and everybody's committed. But when you get to that point, you also need to get serious and talk about your finances.
Yes,
people coming after people's houses and cars and inheritance. I see it every day in my job.
And I'm going to pause you, ladies, because y'all are on fire still. We done hit a hot topic. But no matter what age you are, young or old, single or in a relationship, make sure that you text the word Queens to 87948 so that you can get your free copy of the book Financial Lovemaking, written by Dr. Boyce Watkins, because we all need to make sure that we are entering our relationships from a good financial space and that we are partnering with partners who are also in a good financial space, because we want to start to break down these statistics and we don't want to be divorcing down the line because of our money. So again, make sure you text the word Queens with an S on the end to 87948 so that you can get your free copy of the book Financial Lovemaking, written by Dr. Boyce Watkins. All right. If you're just tuning in, you are watching Fly Nubian Money. My name is Lindsay Vertner, and I am joined by my very beautiful co-queens, Athena Gardner, Erica Lewis, Laura Key, and Marlo Layson. And today we've been talking about relationships with the age gap. And I'm not just talking 2 or 3 years. I'm talking 10 plus years in age differences. So we have been having a hot and heated discussion.
And what we actually back into it is what we pretty much see in the celebrity world. But let's talk about it in everyday life. Don't we all have somebody that we know that is in this situation? With men, they call it midlife crisis, right? But with women, they call them the cougars. But we all know somebody. I literally have an acquaintance, not a very good friend, but literally goes to date women who are he gets older, but he keeps the ages of the girls the same amount because his excuse is he wants to train them up the way that he wants them to do. Well, when the women get smart after being in the relationship for 6-7 years, they're like, wait a minute, there's more to life, and they move on. What does he do? I gotta get another one and train him up again. You know, I want to say something so bad, none of my business. If that's what they're doing, is what they're doing. But there are situations like that where a certain person, whether it be a man or woman, only wants a certain person to be in a certain status so that they can train them or guide them into the lifestyle that they want them to lead. And that's a problem. That's a problem because now you've got several women who just, they're not in it together anymore. So this isn't just for celebrities, right? Yes, sugar daddies, sugar mamas, but honey, if you ain't got no money, you can't be the sugar. So I'm telling you, this gentleman, that acquaintance that I know, is not really a sugar daddy.
He's just a stevia daddy.
What is he
called? A stevia daddy.
Oh my God. Oh,
the low budget sugar daddy is a stevia daddy. Listen, I agree with everything you ladies have said. I do believe that the person who is the older person in the situation is the person who is looking for control within the relationship. So whether it's an older man with a younger woman, or in this case of Drea and her boyfriend Jaden, an older woman with a younger man, the person who is older tends to be the one who is looking or has a control dynamics in the relationship. Now, I know a lot of people are upset with Drea for dating this younger guy. And to be honest, I don't think it's well or great that she is or is having a baby by him either. But I understand why she's doing that. Drea is in the basketball wives, entertainer circle. And what has happened to her is what happens to when the women in those circles get older. They start to realize through their relationships with these different men that the men are very difficult to control, that the men don't really love them or care for them like that, because Jaden is just the last. I'm looking at that as like an act of desperation, to be honest, and the last stop. I'm going to tell you why. She is dating him. He does meet the income requirement and the socioeconomic and status, right? But he is younger. So what older women in those positions tend to do when they date the younger guy is that, okay, I couldn't control the guys that were my age or older. They kind of played with me, pumped and dumped me, used me, whatever. So let me date the up and coming or the younger one, because he probably idealized me. He probably saw me on TV as his dream girl, and he's coming in nicer or more compliant and easier to control. So that is probably, and then he benefits because whatever, he could have an older woman fantasy or she still looks good or whatever.
She's good arm candy. She's a decorative piece. He's got a trophy that everyone. I got her too. Everyone else had her. I can get her too.
Yes, and they tend to rotate women. Listen, they tend to rotate women around, which is kind of weird, but whatever. So that's what that dynamic is. So I'm actually looking at it. I was like, okay, this is her last hurrah. But I don't think the issue, and I'll be curious to see how this plays out, is the maturity level of men in the league at that age. They're just, I just don't see that in a long-term relationship with that situation. There's no ring. You're going to be a baby mama for how many time again? Like,
he just had a baby in February. He just had a baby in February with another woman. So the thing is, as you, Athena, were so artfully putting it about the control and all of that stuff, she doesn't have that either, because he got him a set of ghetto twins, right? He got a baby by one mama over here that was born in February. Drea's baby is going to be born sometime maybe this summer or the early fall. I don't know her due date, but she certainly isn't controlling him either. And what's worse is, I fear this relationship for her is not going to turn out the way that she wants, because I, as a sports fan, I also listen to basketball podcasts or podcasts with professional players who host them and who sit in around and talk. And she gets brought up by these guys not in a healthy, favorable light, right? It makes him the butt of the joke. It makes her the butt of the joke. So it's not really a good look for anybody. I mean, if I could tell Drea anything, I say, girl, you need to get your acting coach and work on all these little side hustles you got, you know, your Fashion Nova line, because she has some things that she's trying to do independently. But I don't think that this is particularly the move if you're looking to be the cougar that is kind of corralling this
See, I think
and you
I
guys
look
brought
at
up
it.
some great
already a full-grown dog with a baby out here. So
talking about, being tired of what she's used to and then trying the younger one. It's like, but he's still in that same world, and so it makes me think about, are we being influenced by celebrities? That is a question that is floating around there, as quote unquote normal folk, not in the limelight. Are we being influenced by celebrities and the things that they do? What are your thoughts on that, Eric?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I have gone to high schools to talk to young people and you have career day, and the first thing somebody says is, "Oh, I'm not going to college. I want to be an influencer." What? You want to be a what? And they can't even spell influencer. They don't even really know what an influencer does. They don't even realize the responsibility of being an influencer. They don't even realize that that they're already influencing somebody to either pay attention to them or ignore them at the present state where they are. So yes, a lot of these so-called celebrities are, influencing regular life folks like you and I to kind of like step out there and do some of the weird stuff. I mean, going back to this young lady, Drea, I mean, there's no difference from what she's doing. She made an investment in a relationship with her womb. There's no different from her than somebody else I know. A young lady I knew, she actually had a baby at 51. She already had 2 grown kids that were in college, had a baby at 51 so she could maintain her Section 8. There is no, yes, ma'am. Yes, Marlo. Yes, girl. I saw your jaw drop. Yes, ma'am. So there is no difference between the poverty mindset versus somebody who's already in a socioeconomic status. Poverty mindset is poverty mindset. If you don't think anything of yourself, you're not going to do any better for yourself. It's the same difference.
And Erica, I'm so glad you said that, because I do think we need to call out women and how women monetize their womb is what I'm going to call it. How women monetize their womb and the messages and signaling we're getting out here. Because like you just mentioned, are we being influenced by celebrity culture? Yes. Do people want to be influencers? Yes. That kind of thinking and that's in the ethos is why we have women flying to Dubai, doing all kind of degrading things for contracts, for money. That has us women who seek these professional athletes, wealthy men, to try to get pregnant by them, or fishing out condoms out of trash bins and trying to have a child support guaranteed 18 year payment every year. That is, women do have a predatory mindset. So it's not just these older men. Women across the board do have a predatory mindset, in that they're trying to monetize their womb and use their children to finance their lifestyle. What do you guys think about that? Is that gold diggerish? Do you feel like, should a woman prioritize wealth in procreation or creating children? Because some can argue women are just having kids for nothing and getting nothing out of that. So, but I will say this, is that when women do these things, I think it's a very selfish nature. How many people had kids just to keep a man and learn that wasn't going to be the deal?
And there are some women that do that will have children not just to keep the man, but to necessarily reap the benefits of having a child. There's certain things that they can't get from people. There's certain opportunities that they can't get. But when people see them with this baby, it gives them an opportunity of now they can live vicariously through this child. So that's why it's a womb investment. Okay, no, certain men wouldn't look at me, or this guy that I dated 15 years ago wouldn't pay any attention to me. But now that I have a child and he feels bad for me, he'll buy me that Corvette. He'll get my rent paid. He'll buy me this. He'll buy me that. So yeah, I think a lot of women, again, their womb is an investment, but they also live vicariously through the child and get things that they normally wouldn't have gotten because of that baby.
Now, Marlo, I seen your mouth drop, so I want to get your take on this. And then Lala, I want to kick it to you to get your take on this, specifically in this whole womb investment we got going on.
Well, listen, I don't want to get us in trouble. Let's go to break. because we got a lot to say. Because I was triggered in that womb investment. So let's go to break. I'll come back.
Well, listen, kids are very, very expensive, and I think we often underestimate how much it costs to raise a child. And so make sure you text the word Queens to 87948 so that you can get your copy of the Financial Lovemaking book by Dr. Boyce Watkins. And it's free, okay? So you ain't got no excuses. And it's really going to help you to merge assets with your partner in a way that feels good, all right? Because listen, we know what else feels good that can lead to that womb investment we got going on. So we want to make sure everything all around is feeling good. Text the word Queens to 87948. And also make sure you like, love, share this live stream out. Keep your comments coming. We love responding to those. And if you're just tuning in, you are watching Fly Nubian Money. Myself is Lindsay Vertner, and I am joined by my gorgeous co-hosts that have a lot to say on this topic, Laura Lalaki, Erica Lewis, Athena Gardner, and Marlo Layson. So, Marlo, let's go on with that comment that you have waiting in the wings.
So let me take us back to where we met Drea, right? As we talk about babies being and womb investments and all of these things. Drea was on Basketball Wives, and part of the mess of her storyline was that she had this child, or her child had been taken from her by Child Protective Services, right? It's well documented. Her oldest son was 11 years old. She was a stripper. Somebody called the police. She went out to work to get her money. And somebody called the police because he had been out. She downplayed the story. The internet has tales, but there's the actual court documentation of what transpired. But I will say it does look like, she had that young man. He is now a young adult in college. She has another young child, not raising that child. That child is with is for a former NFL player. I won't say his name, but it's all public on the Google. And then this baby is with yet another professional athlete, right? Mm-hmm. So I feel like maybe she's trying to get a little reset. Maybe she's trying to get, is she trying to get a do-over? Should we be looking at Drea like, have you mastered being a mama? If you aren't having shown mama qualities in the past, should we just be writing this off as, it's a womb check? Or should we be looking a little bit more closely at these women who are, just having babies and not taking care of them? And then these kids get turned loose on society to do, whatever. And every child doesn't turn out worst case scenario. But if for those of us who work in urban or inner city spaces with young people, you understand that the root cause of what's going on with kids a lot of times is parents. So should we be Drea with the baby? Like, I want to celebrate it. I want to be happy for her, but she already has a track record of not doing this job well, of being a mother. So I want to talk about that aspect, right? You keep cashing this womb check, girl, but you're not doing nothing with the little deposits.
Womb check, honey.
And I don't think she not just her, but most women in this situation, I don't think, again, they're interested in being a mother. It's literally, what can this child do for me? What benefits am I reaping by having this child? This child benefits them at least for the next 18 to 21 years, given whether this child goes to college or whatever. Between 18 and 21 years that this woman has really set. With Drea being 39 years old, yes, she is looking at her future. She never got a 401k plan. She probably never had a savings account. She maybe never even had a checking account unless she was on somebody's account that she was dating. Okay, so this woman, her retirement plan is this baby. I mean, we're not talking about her on the list, but I mean, since we're talking about Basketball Wives, let's look at Evelyn Lozada. No shade, I probably shouldn't have named her, but allegedly, she ran through a few of the sports the sports franchises. And her last child might be like 6 or 7, and she had him with a baseball player. She kind of did the same thing. That was her investment plan. I mean, so the retirement plan rather. So these women invest completely different than Dr. Boyce is writing in the book that he has available. So these are their investment and retirement plans, and that's just the way it is. It's unfortunate, but that's all that they see that they can invest is their womb. They don't put their hands on anything to work. You talked about Drea having something with Fashion Nova or another conglomerate that she was working with fashion. It's really a shame that she didn't take that to the next level, because she could have had an independent clothing line, and that would have been, she would have had, an IP or something to her credit. But no, it's easier when you live off the back with someone else and just go ahead, I'm just gonna have this baby and take him to child support and do interviews for tabloids and make $25,000-$35,000 here and there. And it's just easier money versus working.
Now, Lola, I really want to hear your point, because I know you mentioned your son earlier and that he dates a little bit older. So what is your viewpoint on all of this?
Well, first, I think one of the main questions that was asked is, are we taking celebrity culture into our own world? And to an extent, I agree with that. But the question for me was, which came first, the chicken or the egg? I grew up hearing from other women, honey, you want to make sure that you present yourself very nicely so you can, you might get an older man that could take good care of you and your children. And, which came first? That wasn't influenced by a celebrity lifestyle. That was from wanting people to have security in their lives, because many of those women had lost their partner and then they had nothing and had to start all over again, right? We're coming from that mentality. So I don't know if I can agree that celebrityism is the main force that's driving this. I think it's just a matter of wanting to be taken care of, which you can also take care of yourself. You don't need a significant other to take care of you. Now, in the case of my son, like I said, the older man, I was fine. He never brings people around me that he doesn't think he's serious about. He may date 2 or 3 different men in between, but he will, when he is serious about someone, say, you need to meet my parents. And I appreciate that. And every last one of them have been gentlemen. They both have good heads on their shoulders. They've also helped my son in many ways, and he's helped them in their business. But like I can honestly say, and my son would not be upset that I mentioned this, but one of his older partners helped him to kick alcohol. My son is now sober 4 years because he dated someone who saw that he could help him in this matter, because he lived through it himself and has been sober over 30 something years. So I'm not to say that a difference in age is a bad thing all the way, but you gotta be equally yoked. Yes, I took it back there. Okay, Bible, I'm going to talk about it. You got to be equally yoked. You can't have 2 different directions and have a peaceful home. A foundation has to be firm before you build on it, or else it's all going to come crumbling down. We all know that from relationships maybe that we've experienced before in our lives, whether it's the same age or not. So it really and truly is up to each individual. And I think we hear a lot of these cases because they are celebrity people talking about it, but there's also a lot of positive celebrities who got different age groups. Bruce Willis and his wife, Catherine Zeta-Jones, all they have different age gaps, but they're still thriving and living and growing and still loving one another. So it just depends on who it is and if you both have the same yoke that you're going for. And I'm never going to shame somebody for loving who they love. I don't care if they're purple, green, blue, black, purple, black, man, white, polka dot, whatever. But just make sure that you have that foundation. And part of that self-love is Dr. Boyce's book. I mean, you got to love yourself enough to know that you got to have your own foundation to bring to the table as well, so that you can grow together. Simple as that.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned equally yoked, because I think that's the key factor. Because if we look in history, women, we're often told, like, make sure you find somebody financially secure and has a job and can take care of you. However, we have to think about women weren't allowed often to work, weren't allowed to have businesses, weren't allowed to do the things that men were allowed to do. They were expected to cook, clean, and raise the babies. And so they kind of had to look to, okay, who can I marry that can take care of me because I have to cook, clean, and raise the babies. But in today's society, women are allowed to do all those things. We're allowed to shatter the financial ceilings. And a lot of young people are even making their own money now. It's really about, we don't have the same excuses that we used to have. And with technology, there's so much that we are open to. So it's about, what is your personal preference of these things, and being equally yoked. I think that is the most important part. Are we along the same direction, the same path? Are we in alignment with our values and our goals and the things that we're striving for? So we have had a great discussion. One more time, listen, if you have not yet texted the word Queens to 87948, make sure that you do that right now so that you can get your free copy of the book, Financial Lovemaking, written by Dr. Boyce Watkins, because it is going to help you marry your assets with your partner in a way that feels good, okay? No matter where either of you come from, because sometimes when we talk about money, we can get a little bit sticky, a little bit, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to face that. But we have to be able to have these discussions. And that book, Financial Lovemaking by Dr. Boyce Watkins, is an amazing way for you to have those discussions. So text the word Queens to 87948. Now, ladies, do you have any final thoughts as we wrap up today's discussion?
I actually want to be devil's advocate for a second. If a man wants to date someone younger and provide financially, and they have an agreement that, okay, I'm paying your bills, and on your side of the exchange, you're just going to be my cute wife, and you can sit down and kick your feet up. Is there anything really wrong with that? If both people are consenting to that and that's the arrangement they want to do?
No, I think it's what you two decide together as a couple. And if you're both on the same path, there's no problem with that, as long as one is not trying to gain something out of the other, or the other is looking for an equally yoked person. As long as you both have those tough conversations in any relationship that you're at, your job, your partner, your spirituality, your therapist, your whoever you're doing, you have to be able to discuss and communicate what it is that you really want from one another. If you both agree and you both sign on, then there is nothing wrong with it.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think it boils down to the respect factor. You have to respect the person that you're involved with, and you have to more than anything respect the relationship. Because if you don't respect the relationship, that means you don't respect the person and you don't respect yourself. And then ultimately in the end, you're both going to lose. So yes, I agree with Lala. Having those conversations straight away, straightforward, first date, first phone call. What are your expectations? What do you want to get out of this? What can you put into this? And we didn't even get the opportunity. Maybe we'll talk about it in another setting, as to, what's being brought to the table, and if your table can handle what's being delivered. So it's all about, again, being equally yoked. I agree.
Okay. I just wanted to ask because I think I can see both sides, but what I will say is that a lot of those decisions are being made, especially by women, because of fear and the fear of lack of resources. And I do think that a lot of women exhibit dusty behavior is what I call it. I have 4 brothers, and I try to tell, I was like, listen, a lot of women out here dusty, right? Don't be fooled. Like, don't be fooled. So I think that it was good to bring up. And a lot of women, I mean, there's a sprinkle movement going on. A lot of women are not trying to work or do anything nowadays. So if a man is willing to consent to that arrangement, I think that's between those two consenting adults.
From the sprinkle movement, I follow her too. She is quite entertaining. But I think what people fail to realize is she's been married to James 25 years. So, I mean, what men were doing 25 years ago, they ain't necessarily doing right now. Everyday waking life. So, I mean, she is, she's got some time on her, he's got some time on him, and they've got time together. So, I mean, a lot of that is tolerated because he knew what he was walking into, and at this point, it's cheaper to keep her. So,
yeah, and he already left his wife for her. So, what else is he gonna do?
Exactly.
Look, now y'all gonna have me Googling what is sprinkle.
I'm just saying to myself, I cannot believe I'm about to go and figure out what sprinkle is.
What? Y'all don't know she was 7.
No.
Y'all don't know. We will do a segment on her next time, I'm sure.
Yes. Athena, I'm with you on that one.
Listen, ladies, this has been a great discussion. My final thoughts earlier, I mentioned about money being the 3rd leading cause of divorce, but I didn't tell you what the number 1 was, and it's basic incompatibility. It is 43%. That is how much it is of divorces. So 43% of divorces are from basic incompatibility. And so it makes you wonder, is it because of that age gap, or, having this idea of who this person is and what I want them to be, and then getting into the relationship and it not matching. And then the second cause is infidelity. And then the 3rd cause is money. So we really have to consider all of these things when we are thinking about the relationships. Now, like you mentioned earlier, if it's just because you want to have some fun, then we need to make sure we're not having womb investments from that fun, because then you bring in other people into your situationship. But that's my final thoughts. It has been a great, great chat. Ladies, please let us know, let all the lovely viewers know, where can we find you? Lala, we will start with you. Let us know where we can find you on these internet streets.
Well, you can find me everywhere, because I am actually a social media freak. So you're going to find me on all different platforms under Realty Goddess. But if you want to see me anywhere else, all you have to do is click bit.ly/Laura Key Info.
Thank you. Miss Erica, where can we find you on these internet streets?
All right. Well, I'm pretty much a little bit everywhere. You can find me. My website will be up and running, thank God. This evening, I had to do some rebuilding after the release of my book, Faith in Transition, My Journey to 50. So tomorrow, you can find me at faithinTransition.com.
Okay, Erica, you're 50. You going to be dating anybody that's 25 or 75?
Hell no.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
I do not recommend women to date younger. Absolutely not.
Athena, go ahead and tell us where we can find you on these streets.
Listen, ladies, if you don't want to be a dusty woman and have to make these womb investments, you can find me at wewealthwomen.com, where I teach you all financial and wealth literacy so you guys can become the wealthy goddesses you're supposed to be. So follow me at wewealthwomen.com, and I am everywhere on social media at wewealthwomen.
All right. And last but not least, lovely Marlo, where can we find you on these internet streets?
Well, I am all over these internet streets in terms of news and journalistic endeavors. So you can find my writings in a Google News search near you, I suppose. And other than that, I am on social media. Instagram, I am Overrun Marlo. That is Marlo backwards and then forward. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. And my name is Lindsay Vertner. You can find me at liveafirstclasslife.com. You can shop the things. You can connect with me on all of the social media platforms. As long as you spell my name right, that is where you'll find me, liveafirstclasslife.com. Listen, y'all, this has been a quite interesting discussion on these age gap relationships. Now, no matter who you love, like our sister Lala said, just make sure you're equally yoked, okay? Whether you're 10 years apart or 2 years apart or all in between. Make sure you're equally yoked so that that relationship can actually stand the test of time. And make sure that you download your free copy of the book, Financial Lovemaking, written by Dr. Boyce Watkins. Text Queens to 87948. If you haven't gotten it already, do that right now. Meanwhile, we thank you and appreciate you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, love, subscribe, share, do all the things, and keep your comments coming in the comment section. My name is Lindsay Vertner, and I've been joined by my beautiful co-host here. And you can find us every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So we hope that you stay empowered and inspired to take charge of your financial future. Thanks for watching. Bye now.